I'm really glad to see that people are coming up for a webinar on nutritional aspects for children on plant-based diet. And today's webinar is, in collaboration with Dr. Rupa Shah and Dr. Vidya Chakrabarti. And this topic is new, but before we go ahead, I just want to give like a small discretionary note that please don't replace this for medical advice that is very personal and very specialized for your own child. You can, of course, ask all those questions towards the later 15 minutes of this webinar. But in case you need an elaborate diagnosis of something, either you can reach out to both of them personally and take a consultation from them, or you can reach out to a pediatrician. Via them, they can refer, or you have a pediatrician, please also talk to them. With this, I welcome all of you on this Friday evening for this very interesting topic, nutrition for children on plant-based diet. And I would like to introduce my two panelists that are here. Very wonderful.
Anatomically and physiologically aligned to us. It is the diet designed for us. It is the foundation. Everything else is deviation, and everything else will have to be looked at for deficiencies, not this one.
Right. That really completes the entire answer. So my question is, while we've established that plant-based diets are nutritionally, complete for children, there is no problem. At what age would you say we should introduce plant-based diet to children? Or Dr. Rupa, this question is to you, and
Right.
Dr. Vijay, you can also share your views.
So, first 6 months, mother gets her milk for her baby, and the baby, even the teeth not yet started. So first 6 months, the mother's milk is the best food. It has the composition exactly as per the requirement of the baby. It gives greater immunity, and this is one of the best diets. There's no need even for water at that time. At the age of 6 months, as we start now some food to be introduced, we start one step at a time. Some moms may want to introduce as early as 4 months, but I recommend 6 months is very decent. Till then, let baby have mother's milk. And then 6 months onwards, you start one food at a time. So the whole food plant-based diet would be all the fruits, all the vegetables, all the pulses, all the grains, nuts, and seeds. This is the plant-based diet. Start with mono, one thing at a time. Simplest in the nature are vegetables and fruits. And then gradually you start introducing more different colors and shapes. And then let baby experience it. This is all about connecting. Whatever mother ate during her pregnancy, right? That made baby. What mother liked, what are her, what all foods that she ate, what she thought, all this is also in the baby. Now, first 6 months also, whatever mother has eaten, her liking, her, whatever taste she likes is also going to go and get passed on as personal preferences for baby. And now you want to introduce the whole world of food, one step at a time, and let them experience. So I would say around 6 months onwards, you should start. If you already have older child who was probably vegetarian or eating non-veg, of course, once again, it is the same thing. Reintroduce one step at a time, connecting to the real foods. Any age is good, but 6 months is a good time to start.
Great. Okay. So I understand that it's like the moment mother's milk has been fed, like in the 6 month period, and when we start with solid food, around the same time we can ensure that the child starts to have only a plant-based diet. Dr. Vidya, would you have anything to add to this view, or do you think differently?
Very well explained by Dr. Rupa Shah. Actually, she covered everything. So I completely agree with her that even I would also recommend 6 months to start with introducing new foods, which are actually plant-based. So maybe, to start with just fruit juice or just some dal water. And then, like she said, a mono fruit. It should always be a mono fruit to start with. And then maybe if the baby is getting accustomed to that, then maybe a leafy green like palak, water, just the water, throw away the palak and just the water that you collect when you boil it, and make it a little palatable to the baby. Either add a little bit of salt or a little bit of jaggery, whatever. And and then, in India, it's very traditional to give nachni. So ragi is so high in minerals like iron, zinc, phosphorus, all of these, which is very good for the baby, because after 6 months, the mother's milk lacks a little nutrition in terms of the minerals. So it's a good idea to introduce a mineral rich grain. I would totally recommend nachni. And then slowly, after that, move on to double two grains like rice and maybe dal, or nachni. So depending on the baby's digestive capacity, we can just move on to the entire range of whole food plant-based. So by the end of 1 year, maybe it's a good idea to give mashed veggies, dal rice to the baby, or mash everything together and give it. So it's a great idea. And then later, after the baby has developed all the teeth, then maybe we can start off with the nut butters.
Okay. So I'm understanding where you're saying, and I think our audience is also getting to understand that the food palette has to be of variety, introduced bit by bit. Let the baby also acquire to the taste of it, and the physiology also to be able to digest it well, and as it grows, continue to introduce, right? My question is slightly different now, and it's to you, Dr. Vidya. So, knowing full well that these children will go out in society and socialize with other children, they will also see meat-based food. They'll also see milk and other products in somebody's lunchbox when kids socialize, and it's all lunch boxes open together. But children are so sensitive, and we can't talk about ethics with them. With adults, we can do that. And or health reasons are also there. How then, what is the way to overcome this dilemma of a parent, like how to ensure that my child understands why we are on a plant-based diet?
Thanks for that question. I think it keeps popping all the time to me. So the children, I tell you, are more welcoming to the thought of animal welfare, to the thought of ethical treatment to animals. I think it's much more easier and much more direct to talk to children rather than others. That's my experience. Because so when we are feeding the children, like Dr. Rupa Shah was saying, that we feed them all this different lovely food, we also feeding them a lot of thoughts, lot of values, and the culture, the tradition. So when the child is growing up, we feed into the mind and we feed into the body. So like rightly pointed out, it's all that mind body connection. So when you eat the right kind of food, especially the whole food plant-based food, we have packed enough minerals and vitamins and all that. We actually don't have any deficiencies unless we eat junk food or feed. I insist upon talking about myself, because it's very important what the parents eat, because the children are actually getting inspired with what we do. So we eat healthy food, soup, salads, fruits, and then cut down all the junk foods. The children are going to learn the same things. So when we are very kind enough to animals, we are kind to people, we are doing charity, we are being loving, I think it's indirectly feeding the children also the same thing. So when they get exposed to social circles, when they go to school, they'll say, I don't need to eat it. Even if they are forced to, probably if it is something very, very interesting, like a piece of dessert which has dairy, or something like chicken nuggets, maybe they would be interested to try, because they're too young to become idealists. So they might try. but ultimately it's left to them because they are individuals, they have their own personalities. But as long as they understand the value system, the ethical part of it, we don't have to do much. They will decide it for themselves. So that's the best part. We can just inspire them, slightly influence them, but we can never push anything down anybody's throats. It has to come within them. And as they understand the climatic changes, they understand the how important it is to treat people the right way. It's all explained to them in a very subtle fashion, and that's what works. It worked with my children, so I'm telling with experience.
Great. That really helps understand this this question and answer this dilemma or this confrontation for any parent if it were ever to occur in their life when they're introducing plant-based diet. Dr. Rupa, you want to add anything? Yeah.
Yeah. So over the years, I have observed that children are the fastest to get convinced to go vegan. Just a single film of cruelty to animals and they get it. I have seen many households where actually children go vegan first because they see something and they make the connection. And all of us are born vegan actually. We are kind-hearted. All of us are the souls that never want to hurt the other human being. It is the societal conditioning of actually disconnecting your plate with the real animal. You never realize that there's a dead flesh of somebody died just to become your food. That connection is, disconnected. It's completely gone. You do not know where your food comes from. You see neatly packed, stacks of food, vegetables in the supermarket. You never realize that it is the part of somebody's body. But moment you tell them the truth that your food comes and has gone through this journey, children are the first one who understand it very clearly. They have a very transparent system. They go vegan first. Once you tell them the real stories, they are very comfortable. Their parents are the one who are often needing inspiration to become more plant-based. Or so they, when they go out into the world, into the society, and interact with other households or other children, they are very clear why they are eating what they are eating. They do not have any confusion. There's no double standard about them. They're so simple, transparent, honest, beings, very gentle souls. So then they are very aligned. So, example, like I'm born in a vegetarian household. I never ate animals, right? I never ate animals because it's completely the culture of the house. Nobody ate. I said, oh, we never kill animal and eat. So you go out in the world and you remain vegetarian because that's the answer. The same way the vegans have a complete answer that you never exploit an animal for anything. And so the children are the first, to actually spread the message of ahimsa or compassion. However, when they go out in the world, there are all these other foods, junk foods, other things. But somehow the clarity is so much there that the pressure is not from children to want to eat. It's from the society thinking that, oh, you don't give milk to your bacha, he'll become thin, and it's all the other pressure that is much more because of the concepts, the myths that are going on in the society. You must eat eggs and you must eat meat, or you must have 2 glasses of milk. This is the problem. Otherwise, in the children, there is no problem.
So the understanding is that children are very transparent, very observant, and they observe things and they understand. So there is no hush-hush around the matter, and these values can be passed on in the most subtle ways, and the message goes and they adhere to it because they feel close to it. So this does really make sense. I mean, I'm very young to say this, but from your experiences, it does really makes a lot of sense. Moving on to more about nutrition. So maybe Dr. Vidya, you can answer this first, and then I'll ask the same question to Dr. Rupa. So what are, couple of very important or say crucial nutrition nutrients that we should ensure in the diet of children since they are young and they need growth and everything. So
Yeah, thanks for the question. Pretty valid. A lot of people have similar questions on the same topic. I will try and use some wisdom of Ayurveda here, being an Ayurvedic doctor. I don't want to talk about micronutrients and macronutrients. All of us know about it. We need minerals, we need vitamins, we need to eat the right amount of protein, carbohydrates, fats, everything. But it's a very, very simple thing. Nutrition is simple. Foods are very simple. But the complexities of the pharmaceuticals and the nutraceuticals made it like, I need to have all the amino acids. Something is lacking in rice, something is lacking in dal. But actually saying the kind of food that we eat in India, roti, dal, chawal, salad, and what else? Any dessert or the pickle and all those things, coming to South Indian foods or North Indian foods or Gujarati foods, all of these foods are made to be wholesome because we just don't eat simply rice. We definitely add tadka to it. So it has all the essential oils and the minerals and the vitamins. That simple tadka has everything in it. And then we also add curry leaves. We also add coriander, which adds to the minerals and the iron. And we also eat fruits as a snack in the morning. We drink fruit juices without removing the fiber. So if we choose whole food plant-based system of eating, where we include a rainbow of colors, we actually eat the tomatoes, then we eat oranges, we eat the green leafy vegetables, we add colors like purple cabbages, and then brinjals, and all these rainbow of colors. There's so many of them. So when we add all of these variety of vegetables, we get a variety of vitamins, minerals, all kinds of fibers, phytonutrients, everything. And a rainbow of fruits, all variety of fruits, gives us the adequate amount of nutrition. And Ayurveda also speaks about eating different tastes, like it is called shadrasa, which means 6 types of tastes. We need to include all of them, like the sweet, bitter taste, astringent taste, and the tangy taste, what else? Sweet, salty, all of these, the 6 different tastes actually give the variety of nutrition in all these vegetables. Some are bitter, some are sour, some are sweet, some are salty, some are astringent, some are pungent. So pungent tastes come from the spices. So we also add spices. All our foods have spices in it. We also add salt. We also add lemon. So all of these, bitter gourd, for instance, it's a good idea to get the children accustomed to bitter foods as well, because these also have the variety of phytic acids which are essential for our body. So when we expose them to the variety of tastes, colors, and forms, so all types of them, then the children get the wholesome, whole-rounded nutrition on their plate. So it's actually very, very simple. It's all about following the seasons. Whichever is a seasonal fruit which is abundant, which is locally grown, is so much better than getting them from outside, because anything that is freshly made, freshly grown, locally grown in your area has the maximum nutrition. And anything that is made in the house is made according to your needs. So it's a great idea to eat home cooked food rather than getting it from outside, because when you cook for a couple of people, it's fresher, and and we know what to make and how to make. So the ingredients are also good quality. So that way, it's actually very simple to choose what you have to choose, and keep away all the junk foods, because all of these are processed, they lack in fiber, and they add trans fats and sugar and salt and all kinds of hydrogenated oil in order to make it tasty. They probably also add enhancers. So please say no to them as much as possible. The rest of the food that are whole food and some amount of fats, I would not say no to fats. You need fats, especially for children, but these must be coming from the natural sources like avocados, nuts, and seeds, and then the flaxseed oil to some extent, which provides an abundant source of omega-3 fatty acids to the plant-based people. So it's a good idea to add all of them, and that's how it makes it really nutritious. You don't have to worry about any deficiencies. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. Dr. Rupa, I'll just add a bit to this question because you've talked about calcium and you've written this book, which is incredibly helping us understand and breaking our myths. Parents often say this thing that cow's milk is like a whole food for my child. And sometimes even when mothers are replacing their own milk, they often try and provide cow's milk as well. So in addition to what Dr. Vidya talked about, providing all of these nutrients, and I like this term that you coined multiple times, is rainbow vegetables, like see all colors means use everything that is seasonally available and locally grown. How do you then explain when somebody is also asked this question, addition to these plant-based items, these nutritions that are coming from plants, people still believe that cow's milk is like a whole deal and it provides with everything that you need to the child. Is this true? How do we break this?
So now we are Indian people, right? We are one of the highest dairy consumers of the world. Also, we produce dairy and our love for dairy is very high. So that's one part. So we consume it and we have a concept that milk is sattvic, milk is the best, ghee is very good. All these concepts are in Indian subcontinent. But if you go to countries like China, Japan, Southeast Asia, they haven't heard of milk. Some countries of Africa, they haven't heard of milk. There is no dairy over there. So there is no dairy and yet they thrive. Everything is okay over there. And our country, we are Aryan culture. We brought cattle with us and we did organized agriculture and we needed the support of cattle to help us in the agricultural part. They were like family members, and they were looked after till the end of their life, and the milk was given first to the calf and maybe some leftover milk was used for some of the products, and it became integrated part of our culture, our puja, our prayer, our ceremonies. So now all our myths and concepts are coming from our culture, that dairy, cow's milk is the best. Agar doodh nahi piyega to bada kaise hoga? There's a very typical picture of a mom running with a glass of milk behind the child, right? And it is usually 2 glasses of milk. Ek subah piya, ek raat ko piya, school jaane ke pehle piya. And now the urban kids, because we all have a big refrigerator, we have so many dairy products. We have cheese cubes. Oh, you must have 1 cheese cube for calcium. Now we are consuming dairy products far more because they are available also, they are neatly packed, and there's a shelf life also. However, still our population, maybe half of them cannot afford milk products. They do not have money just to eat even 2 meals a day. So where will they buy such expensive milk for their children? They cannot. So what do they eat? They usually, they try to breastfeed their children as much as they can because that's the best way. Immunity also develops, the growth of baby happens, and mom doesn't have to worry for a while, for her child's food needs. And then when the meals have to be given, they make mixed grain porridge. Whatever is cheaply available grain, like nachni or anything, they just make it and they give that to the babies. There's no milk there. There is no milk. There's no money for milk. And these children grow up very well. They are physically very strong. There are no other diseases, nothing. They can do so much more. So the concepts, the myths are there. Is with the comfortable middle class who will put aside about 3,000 rupees a month for one child's milk because they think that the milk, is going to help with the growth. However, now there are other aspects of dairy products. The milk is best for the calf. The mother gives for her own baby the composition of protein, carbohydrate, fat, whatever is there in that milk is the best for the calf to grow and become 200 kilo in just 2 years time. Human child does not grow fast, not so heavy, not so bulky, right? So if we start taking a milk from an animal who is very bulky, our children, instead of becoming, healthier, are going to get heavier, more sick. There are also antibiotics, there are hormones, there are pesticides, all this added gift, and more sick. These days, I do meet pediatricians who are quite aware about dairy products and the allergies in children or cold and cough. And they stop, and they say these children are lactose intolerant or these children cannot take milk, and they, get them off milk very early. So I'm glad they are already recognizing this, as not their food. So I would like all the moms to rethink. I know during pregnancy also the family's pressure. You bacha kaise bada hoga if you don't have, how can you have a vegan pregnancy? Are you going to kill the baby? They'll say or will she be deficient? All these things, are very high pressure on the society. I understand. But now there are lots of vegan moms with vegan children, and they are a big inspiration. And you see how children are very mentally sharp and physically fit, and they hardly go to doctor, and no antibiotics, nothing, the way they grow up, So all the moms will have to rethink about this and start thinking in terms of plant-based diet. Think of all the myths that I talked about. It comes from our culture. It comes also, like last 60 years, milk products became more available. Earlier, they were not available. If you had a cow at home, something, if she became naturally pregnant, you got milk or something. Otherwise, milk was, for few rich people. Rest of the population did not. So we have a concept that, milk is a expensive, nutritious food or something like that. There's nothing like that. Milk is complete food. If mom feeds her baby, it's the best. Beyond that, even a cow doesn't feed her own calf after a point. She says she'll just kick him, say, go and find grass. So we are the humans who still think after you wean off that, oh, I must replace with another white liquid from somewhere. And then we start looking for cow and A1 cow and A2 cow or a buffalo, goat, all kinds of things. Because of our concept that if you don't take dairy products, maybe you'll be deficient.
For that, your phone needs a mobile or Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, so we hear this very clearly, and I think the answer is also in that we've misinterpreted, taken half of these understandings of why these customs were there and what was happening back then, and we're just marketed largely these products are there, and misnomer of information is around us. Like you said, like all these ads you see mothers running with a glass of milk, and we've seen it in our homes also. You like it or not, your mother's like after you to have a glass of milk. So I take this question to Dr. Vidya. Now with milk, there is this advertisement of DHA is very important, and the supplementation of DHA in a glass of milk. So can you help us understand the plant-based sources of DHA, and how these supplements are they necessary? The supplements that the commercialized products talk of, specifically with the milk, are they really necessary, or should we just take it from natural sources, and how to?
Okay, very valid question. Thanks again. We make everything inside our bodies. Our bodies are super intelligent, and we have survived for 6.5 million years, or probably more than that, without any pharma. The pharmaceuticals came only probably 100 years back, and now they got into nutraceuticals in a very big way with trillions of dollars of investment. So now we have a requirement for DHA, ALA, then we have B12, and then we have biotin, glutathione, you name it, and we need to have it. So everything comes from plants. Everything that goes into our body, all kinds of fruits, vegetables, leafy greens, nuts and seeds, grains, all of them have it. But very rightly pointed out by Dr. Rupa Shah, is in case if we are unable to process them in the body, in case we don't have the right microbiome which can digest, assimilate, and absorb these these kind of the nutrients which are required for us, probably we might have a problem. Maybe because of the soil deficiency, the soil erosion that's happening. So we don't know if the foods that we are consuming has enough amount of all of these minerals and the phytonutrients, or probably we were on an antibiotic treatment which is not allowing our gut microbiome to do its job. Then maybe yes. So in that case, plant-based plant-based supplements are all available for DHA and also B12 and D3 and everything. So in case someone is deficient, is sick, is unable to absorb, then maybe it's a good idea to consult your doctor, your plant-based doctor. Otherwise, everything is available. I don't supplement anything myself, and I don't give my children as well, because my children are exposed to everything. Grow your own garden. Get your children to put their fingers in dirt, especially the soil, to get the variety of bacteria. Get your children to socialize with animals. Let them touch the animals and play with them. Let them get exposed to sunlight. Let them go out, walk on the sand, put their foot on the soil. So unless we connect ourselves to the nature and the animals and people, it's very, very difficult to get everything. So once we do this, we don't have to worry about any supplements. So the best indicators are sleep, the quality of sleep, how energized you feel when you wake up in the morning, and absence of diseases, and also how happy you feel, your moods. So once these indicators are perfect, check, you don't have to worry about anything. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I think this is exactly what has been my personal dilemma has been like this only, that supplements are there, then there's a variety of them there, and then you keep hearing that supplement B12 and D and this DHA, omega-3 fatty acid. And when it comes to children, we know that the brain development and functionality has to be taken care of, and be very cautious about it. So there's a over flooded informational thing going on the internet, and we all read it there and we don't consult somebody who has the expertise. So this definitely answers the question. And with this, I think we are at 5:47. I would also love to take some of the questions that our audience has asked over here. So in the chat box, somebody in the beginning asked, can you, somebody's asked if you can share any contact details of pediatricians, plant-based pediatricians in India, in anywhere. Or, I'd like to go ahead with this question first and ask both of you, if you do consultations for children as well. Dr. Rupa, you can say.
Yes, so since there are about 30 doctors in India who are plant-based now, but I haven't yet found a pediatrician who is also plant-based, not yet. So for the time being, we will do it till we have pediatricians also becoming plant-based, and then they will start advising. But there are also nutritionists who are advising on the plant-based diet for children also. We also do it. These children who are on plant-based diet are very healthy. See, the childhood obesity, even the degenerative changes like atherosclerosis, diabetes, thyroid, all of these are starting in teens, So if they are on a plant-based diet, you can prevent all these diseases and even reverse, even if a child decides at 14 to go vegan or to go plant-based. So I recommend, that plant-based diet is not just for reversal, it's also for prevention and a future life. And I am hoping that more pediatricians also will start paying attention to it and then get going and advising children about it. Everyone is, I think, okay if an adult goes plant-based, but once it comes to children, they are very nervous. They're very cautious about, because they are growing up, where will they get protein from? What about D, B12, calcium, zinc, or brain development? So, but anyway, now, since we have lots of examples of such children, I hope the trend will change.
Yes, yes. Dr. Vidya, do you also give consultations for children?
Yeah, definitely. I do consult for everybody and children, of course. So actually, I specialized in pediatrics when I was doing my Ayurveda, and I would be very happy to help with using the ancient wisdom and the modern functional medicine, clinical nutrition. I also visit hospitals here in Bangalore. It's a network of hospitals, and I do clinical nutrition with Ayurveda, the plant-based Ayurveda. So I think most the most plant-based doctors are capable, in fact, are very good for all ages, including pediatric cases. So I agree with Dr. Rupa Shah. We don't need a pediatrician for this. All plant-based doctors and plant-based nutritionists, all of them can do a great job. If you find someone near your house or online, please, you're more than welcome to consult me or Dr. Rupa Shah.
Thank you so much. That is really warm of you, because a lot of people have already written here. If you can tell any, or they've asked you also if we can come to you for understanding if a child is deficit in anything. Somebody's asked, how to. I think you mentioned about it in terms of sleep and everything, but somebody's asked here how to make sure that there is no deficiency in an 8-year-old child. So, Dr. Rupa, maybe you can answer this.
So certainly, my approach is more like a holistic approach. So we don't look for A deficiency or B deficiency. We just meet our patient as a whole, from mind, emotions, body, lifestyle, studies, sleep, exercise, right? All these things, like a holistic approach. I like to listen to the child, his environment, his hobbies, his academic performance, like a little story. We want to know. Deficiencies will be spotted if there are anything that are, like a shortcoming. Like, for example, like if I have a child who is, say, 9-year-old, and the girl is very, very short, then I just want to know everything about the environment. Is she in a very emotionally restraining environment? All these things, matter. It's not just about hormones, or it's not about A factor being deficient. So yes, certainly we would like to meet. General deficiency that we pay attention in children are, again, the calcium or iron, zinc, vitamin B12, D. These are the 5 ones that I usually take care. I want to know. So I get some blood tests done just to make sure that the profile is all right. And just observing them over a period of time, how their growth is happening. Children have to be mentally sharp, playful, alert, ability to learn, grow, and spontaneously heal, recover, laugh, be joyful, and be very progressive in life. Optimistic. That's normal childhood. But these days, we of course end up getting children who are depressed, stressed, who are in a competitive environment, who are also suffering from some kind of diet programs and all kind of things that we get referred to. They talk, I am not allowed to eat this. I can have pizza just once in a month. All these kind of rules come up. So of course, we have to help them also over there. They're just living a life of restrictions and rules far ahead of their time.
We understand that you talked about certain aspects of lifestyle to really check upon and to ensure that these abilities in a child are developing really well. it's a very important thing for the parent to observe. I have
Because they are linked, they're completely linked. If you're deficient in something, you also have to have it reflected in your thinking, in your memory, in your behavior, everywhere. It's just not one plain simple deficiency or something. So we link it up, everything, and then find the cause and make the correction at the cause. It could be a child lazy sitting on the sofa whole day eating chips. So you just have to figure out trick, go on to the plant base and start moving. Yeah, and you just make up a plan saying that 1 hour of this and that exercise. We just have to trick them. Whatever is deficient, you just have to replenish, and it's not about just the nutrients alone.
I have a follow-up question to this. A lot of children are picky eaters. Matar nahi khana, ye nahi pasand. We've also done that in our childhood. We've seen any bit of tomatoes anywhere and we'd be like, oh, this sabji is like super untouchable. So, how do you help with this on a plant-based diet with a child? How would parents cope with this? Dr. Vidya, would you like to answer this?
Yeah, I know. Definitely, the children have their own. They're very picky, of course, especially when children are given a plate of vegetables. The best way to do that, which I have done and has worked, is let them cook. Conduct some competitions with other children, give them all these salads and vegetables and fruits, teach them, vegetable carving, make it like a fun thing. And it's very nice, especially when you sit together with the children, you're cutting some veggies and the kids are really exposed to these colorful, fresh, succulent veggies and they feel like eating it. And it's a great idea to also keep a fruit basket always, keep away all those candies and things like that. But instead of that, if you fill your house with fruits and these very fresh veggies, take them for shopping when you have to shop veggie shopping. So there has to be a connection that you have to build with vegetables. Take them where the aisles and aisles of veggies and fruits and those colorful. I get very attracted when I see those oranges or apples. I'm sure even the kids, we are made, we have all these attractions to certain colors, like the very bright colors, and all of them are fruits, of course, and we eat it. We get so rewarded, right? When you eat fruits, you feel so amazing after that. So when the children get to experience something like this, I'm sure they'll never leave it. They'll always follow this kind of lifestyle of eating the right foods, and they'll also pass this on to the next generation, because most of the lifestyle diseases that we are treating now, in fact 99% of all of these are not genetic. Maybe it is genetic to some extent, but not all of the times. It's actually the lifestyle habits, the cooking habits that you pass on from one generation to another. That is what is hereditary, not the diseases. So when we teach the kids or influence the kids the right way, they will carry this forward.
Thank you for answering that. There's another question here, and it says, are there, so it's by Bharti Ramachandran. Thank you, Bharti. Bharti is also CEO of Tiapo, and I think she's asking as a mother also. Are there any digital or print sources, books, comic books, songs that you can recommend to help children make the choice to go plant-based? Is there any material available for the younger audience?
There is a lot of vegan material for children where there are pictures and explaining about our relationship with animals and environment and why we should. So it's just a simple thing like, if a 1-year-old baby is left onto the farm, there is a chicken running around and there is also apple. The baby is instinctively going to go and grab an apple and not the chicken as food. It's our instinct, So the making these connections with children about what is, our intuition that tells us what is our food and what is not our food. And the animals are our friends and not food. So that kind of some books are there that they can see, and they learn very quickly once they see such pictures. I think they just, and there are some videos also, very fun type, and they'll make actually they make connection very fast, very fast. The adults are the one who need to be told again and again to unlearn what we have learned, before.
Yes, unfortunately, adults have to unlearn, and it's quite a bit of conditioning. Would you be so kind to maybe refer some of these books, maybe in the chat, if you, or maybe I can get it this information from you later. If you can refer us to some of these comic books or anything that is there, it would be really nice to dispense it to our audience also. Moving on to another question. So we have talked about supplements, but somebody's asked, what about B12 being supplemented in the diet? So Dr. Vidya, would you like to answer this?
Yeah, sure. B12. A lot of B12, of course, we all know that B12 comes from bacteria. And so if we are very closely connected to the environment and the animals, we don't have to worry about, I'm sorry, I'm getting so many calls. So if we are in close connection with nature, like how it was supposed to be, like the well water is abundant with B12, and then when you grow organic vegetables and fruits, and then since you get it from the ground, it is abundantly B12. And also it's also said that a lot of these pickles and fermented foods also have B12 in it. And see, one thing is very simple. B12 is not any animal source or plant source. B12 is a bacteria. B12 comes from the bacteria. So if you are on an animal based diet or a plant based diet, you're not going to get B12 from anywhere. You are going to get it from, sorry. So you will get your B12 only from bacteria. If you are not getting bacteria due to so many reasons, we are very sanitized, we are ultra clean, and then we use antibiotics, we wash them with chlorine. There is no B12 available in the environment we live in. So that is why we need to supplement. It's as simple as that. If you're not living in a village and doing your own organic farming and you're washing all your food sources with chlorine, you're not going to get it. If you are in a natural setting in a village, you will get your B12. So don't worry about that. Check if you have deficiency, and if you are deficient, please get a plant-based B12 supplement. As simple as that.
Thank you. It's definitely based on deficiency. So I think we have just these last two questions left, and I'll pose the first one. So somebody's asked, for a 4-year-old kid, their gut, can it digest the seeds and flaxseed easily? Addition to this, fiber is also something that gets too much into when you start eating vegetables. For adults, it's a different thing. For children, can they digest that much of fiber when it goes from grain, vegetables, everything? Because all the diet is plant-based. Dr. Rupa, maybe you can answer this.
So there is something that is called as intuitive eating. This is what we follow. So you don't feed your children by the book that this much this is to be given, this much this is to be given. And if you allow that connection to happen, then they will eat what their body needs. There's a proper craving. You will not overfeed them. You don't feed them like a machine. Oh, there's a flax seeds, you must give 5 gram or 15 gram of it every day, or you must give this much amount of fiber every day, and then you worry about whether they can digest or not digest. We don't follow. The simple thing, they can digest. They can definitely digest. There's no problem. The digestive system is good, but don't do it out of concept. Let them eat. Let them ask. Let them feel the satiety at the right point. Then they will say, I don't want to eat this. I'm satisfied. That's a correct way. We have to follow all these things. We've forgotten all this art about, eating food to our satisfaction and then eat something else. For example, if I just give you banana every single day for 7 days, I'm sure the 8th day you will, no matter what I say, you will not open your mouth for that banana. Somewhere something tells I had enough of it. There is no craving for such thing. So dissecting food as protein, carbohydrate, fiber, fat, B12, calcium. We don't eat calcium. We eat radish leaves, or we eat almonds, right? And there's calcium in it. But calcium doesn't come alone. It comes along with all these other friends, magnesium and other things, and fiber included. So it's a package. However, do eat food, good food, organic, fresh, regional, freshly prepared by our own mom. That's the best food. There are only simple ingredients. She doesn't necessarily buy most expensive, exotic things, but she prepares with lots of love for her own child. Go to a very simple household where the mother has a very limited budget, maybe 4 children to feed, and just go and study what she's feeding her children. And yet see the satisfaction on the children's face and how they grow up and how everything is still normal. So it's really not about all this nutrients and studying and how many grams and how many units of this. I recommend that go more holistic.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask just this last one question because we are at 6:05. It's been asked by a lot of people around milk, and they've asked, is there any supplement, fortified milk supplement that is plant-based, or whether the formula milks are good for infant and children, dry milk powder, or is it good to give it daily? So, Dr. Rupa, maybe you can answer this. And there's an extension that I'll bring to you, Dr. Vidya, after this, of the same question.
So, I mean, anything that comes in a packet is a problem. You know, it has got a shelf life, it has got some preservatives. It's not in its original form. So formula milk and all this is going to be having its own problems. Do it only as a last resort if you have to do, if nothing else is available. But we come from a very simple country of roti, sabji, dal, chawal, and a bit of salad. I think that everyone can afford and should be quite easily available across India, right? The simple foods and that you can eat.
Definitely.
I do not recommend any of the packaged foods. In fact, they are going to bring in more problems. Just I heard today only that one of my staff girl has started feeding her baby boy some formula from the dabba, and I said, why? She should be just feeding her own milk up to 6 months. That's the best. Why would you want to do it and spend so much money on it to a product which is so expensive and promises with all those minerals and stuff? It's all marketing. As far as possible, take very simple foods as nature gives it to us, and body will handle it nicely. We do not also need lots of food or something. Body will absorb, take the maximum out of what has been given. It's not even about quantum. It's just about quality and eating it so well and appreciating. The body will take it. There's no problem.
Definitely. So I have an extension of this question that'll be the last of it, I swear, because we're at
one moment, Sarita. I think Rachna, I guess, was asking for infants. That's what she said. Yeah.
Yes. That's added to it. So somebody's also asked if a mother's unable to lactate or unable to feed their child for an infant, what is then the alternative? Would formula not?
So no, there are first and foremost, if the mother doesn't get enough milk, just try and look out for other mothers who are breastfeeding their babies. And there are sometimes breast milk banks are there in some localities where the mothers who are getting excess milk, they donate so that the babies who do not get enough milk, that is the first choice. Otherwise, obviously, I understand, as I said, rarest of the time, if you have to give some plant-based formula, they are available soy-based also. Those can be given.
So you're saying that soy-based formula can be provided to infants as well. Great. Okay. I think that's about it. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with us, your immense experience, expertise, and wisdom that you've shared here today with all these audiences here and on Facebook Live.